Free to, oh, there we go. Now we're recording. Feel free to pop your question into the chat box. Just as we're getting ready to go here, welcome folks to the latest edition of the Coaches Connect call. And just getting some stuff ready here. Quick little intro for folks who are on the mailing list, or you may have signed up for another PN product and seen this email come into your inbox earlier this week. We are a few days, if not weeks, away from launching our next iteration of the coaching business Kickstarter course. So, as I'm preparing to be one of the leaders for that course, just going through some of the old content, and one of the things that stood out to me this week was a model that we teach when attracting and retaining clients is our connect, attract, engage, and delight model. These are some of the steps that you will follow to help turn someone from a curious prospect into a raving fan of your work. And in particular, for me, what stood out while I was doing this review was that the last bit on the end there, delight. So I was explaining before we hit record the elements that we're looking for when we are trying to engage in the idea of delighting a current client or a prospective client is offering them something that is slightly unexpected, that offers great value, shows that you are listening to that client, and then also in return has them wanting to share more about their experience with their family and friends. Uh, so this popped up for me recently in another venture that I have where I foster and board dogs occasionally, and a client of mine was speaking to a friend of theirs, and they gave such a glowing review that this person signed up for us, and it'll be a nice chunk of change. So I wanted to do something nice for that person. So got their dog a little personalized toy. So the next time that they come and stay with us, uh, they'll have that toy, and I'll make sure to send them a photo and send that toy home with the dog. But also gave them a one night free so that they can use that at any time. That'll likely generate a little more business. It generates some goodwill, and it shows that person that I appreciate their efforts. So that is one of the ways that I'm looking to use the strategy of delighting a client in one of my current businesses. Coach is here. How do you use the that model specifically on the delight side? What is something that you've done for a client that has helped them become more of a devoted and raving fan? And before we hit record, Seetal shared in the chat box uh, a certification that you'd gained, and you shared it with the client or some of the knowledge that you gained from that certification. And that was something that everyone here was very curious to know about, or at least I was.
Yeah. So when I have beta clients, so I'm trying like different things to see what is working with my clients and what's not. So we talk a lot about nutrition and fitness coaching and stuff. And the client kept telling me that, I want this double chin to go away. And we spoke a lot about that, having a positive body image. And then I thought that, hey, I had done a course on face yoga from Center of Excellence. I don't know if you've heard, but it's like a small thing. I never thought that I would use it. I just wanted to do it for my own knowledge. So what I explained to the client that I do have um, something up my sleeve which we could try. If it doesn't, even if it doesn't really change the way your face looks for you, at least it would help with the blood circulation that's coming to your face, which would help you reduce your stress levels. So I thought that let's just try and see how that works for you. And we started doing the face yoga, and they were so happy with the results that then I started incorporating that for my other clients. So we do that just once a week for 15 minutes, um, along with some simple breathwork exercises. And they say that that relaxes them so much, and they are able to sleep much better because of it. So it was just kind of something I wanted to try, and they didn't expect that that's something that I would offer to them. And yeah, it delighted them.
That is awesome. Yeah, that is sounds like a great trick to have up your sleeve. I remember when I was going down some movement rabbit holes earlier in my training career, when I was more movement focused, that uh, there seems to be some relationship between postural or our postural kind of positioning and mental state. So maybe there's a relationship that exists as well between kind of like facial expression and mental state. The old adage of turn your frown upside down, I don't know how well researched it is, uh, but I'm glad to see that, yeah, you had a tool that you were able to pull out at a moment's notice, share that with the client. And if nothing else, it maybe gave them a greater sense of control over the situation, where it's something where it's like typically they have most of us don't have a great deal of control over our facial shape or facial structure. So if this is something that helps them feel like, hey, I have some modicum of control here, I can actively work on this. Maybe there's some value for them there. So I'm super glad to see that you were able to delight them with that skill set that you didn't think you'd be pulling out anytime soon.
Yeah, and it really shifted the conversation from them having to even change anything to
Mhm,
them just feeling good about doing, like, post workout, they just felt great and
mhm.
more relaxed. And that the shift, that itself was very rewarding for me.
That is fantastic. Yeah, and it's an interesting way of looking at it because we know this happens with movement quite often. Uh, and one of the conversations that comes up for me quite often as a coach is what is the appropriate dose of movement that I can feel good about? Like someone going for a walk to the end of their block to pick up the mail may not register for them as I can feel good about that because it's additional movement. They're like, oh, I just did it because I had to go pick up the mail. Whereas a 60-minute structured workout in a certain setting with certain tools, that is something that I can feel good about because it feels like that's what movement is supposed to be. That's what working out is supposed to be. And I like how your example here, 15 minutes, doesn't require any activity, doesn't have to work out any specific muscle groups besides the face and breathing, and still offers very similar results that they felt great about, uh, and they felt more relaxed. And all the positives that we want from a workout were delivered with something that is, I don't think, very commonly seen as exercise. So that's super awesome. Yeah, it's happening literally all the time. That is in response mostly to Vicky's comment about breathing. So an interesting way of looking at how can we create more wins for our clients, uh, and shine the light on some awesome things that they're already doing, or give them access to tools that are uh, kind of always present for them, and they can take control and harness them at any moment to change their state. That's awesome. Cool. Anyone else have any examples of things that they can do to delight their clients? And I know I've framed this very much in the way of like give something a tangible giveaway, or as Thel's example, provide a skill. But there are other ways to do this as well. Anything pop up for coaches here?
So this is kind of a silly thing that I do. It's not like
Oh,
huge or
please, the
anything.
sillier the better.
Well, I mean, it's little, but I think it just means so much. Like it means so much to my clients. So I have everybody's birthdays. And so every time I send them a special message that's tailored to them, um, and it's just a little note to let them know, happy birthday. And I know it's like silly because it's like very basic, but just doing that little step, um, I have had so much positive feedback because I think a lot of people just kind of forget. So that's just my
That's
little fun thing. And it's like it's really simple. It's not hard. Um, I just have everybody's birthdays written down. Um, and it just makes it easy and all of my clients seem to really like it. So that's something I've been doing.
that's phenomenal, and I think it goes back to what Sarah shared as well in terms of, oh, actually, who shared this? The idea of kind of just being feeling seen. Oh, Vicky
Yes.
shared this. When my coach gets me and that opportunity that you have there, it's like it's common to get a message on your birthday, but sharing those specific details of your relationship, of what you appreciate about them, how you've noticed their change in progress in maybe
Mm-hmm.
ways that they haven't really noticed themselves. It's just another opportunity to kind of turn up the term that we use is like turn up the awesome or shine a light on what is awesome about this person in an unexpected way. So yeah, way to go above and beyond on the happy birthday message.
Yeah, like I said, it's silly, but it's simple and you can customize it. Like you said, you get to be seen, and then I get to talk to them about goals. And that's another one I did too, is at the end of the year, just talking about everything they've done throughout the year, like going through and seeing everything that they've done, all the accomplishments, all the goals that they've met. Because sometimes we just like, I mean, I know I forget my goals. Like I set a goal and I do it and I'm like, okay, whatever, like let's go to the next goal. Um,
Mhm.
and that's another one that I'll do too, is at the end of the year, do like, the end of the year report and just talk about everything they've done. Um, and that one's been a good one too, because the same thing, people forget sometimes.
We forget all the time, always. So yeah, having someone in your corner there to shine a light on those things uh, is super useful. Thank you for sharing that, Leah.
Yeah, thank you.
Vicky, I really want to know, what does it feel like when your coach gets you?
This is when I know I need to quit commenting because you're going to call on me. Um,
No, not me.
just knowing, like, I mean, there's sometimes when I need some hand holding, and sometimes when I need a kick in the butt. And my coach is just really good at judging what I need when I need it, and better about getting encouraging me to find my own bright spots, versus her pointing them out. And yeah, it just gets me. It's awesome.
That is fantastic to hear. I know one coach listening on this call right now who has, uh, it's almost patent pending in terms of how infrequently people do it, but how accessible it actually is. Sending a handwritten note to someone, which is a Kate Solo special. I don't know if this will draw her out of the woodwork or not. She might be driving or attending to some special ops stuff that only Kate can do. But sending a handwritten note to your client, using similar themes that both Vicky and Leah shared as well, picking up on specific details from your client interaction and what you appreciated about them. Uh, and yeah, that's something that I, as a coach as well, try and look for those opportunities. Uh, there was a discussion that popped up in the larger coaching community today, and someone was asking about testimonials and the idea of when should I ask for a testimonial? So should I wait until kind of the coaching relationship has come to a conclusion, like they filled out their initial obligation or they've done everything that they want to do, and then ask for a testimonial then? Or is there another opportunity? And both Kate and myself shared the idea of asking for a testimonial when they've reached a specific milestone. So it could be a specific goal, like, hey, I ran my 5K, or hey, I hit my bench press PR, like I've done the thing that I wanted to do. I would suggest leaning into that as well. This is another opportunity to celebrate your client, to uh, maybe take a moment to pause and reflect and say, hey, like, this is where you started. Here are the steps that you took along the way. Here's where the journey got a little bit squirrely and it looked like uh, it might not happen, but you were able to utilize all these tools that we've been talking about and you've made it to the other side. And now you get to celebrate. So that is an ideal time to both ask for a referral and kind of like capture their experience, but also is an opportunity to delight as well when you share that reflection piece. I tend to lean into it from the delight perspective, at least, when a client is speaking, and I've noticed a shift in how they talk about a certain event or the language that they're using that they previously maybe were not. So, a specific one that's come up recently was a client had a birthday recently. They reflected on how the year before, after their birthday, they were really down, and they were kind of at a real low point. And some of it was related to some of the work that we were doing. Like they felt like I wasn't really doing the things that I wanted to do. I wasn't living the way I wanted to live. And in that moment, I paused them for a second and said, "Hey, how do you feel about this now?" And they were able to reflect and notice all the things that changed. And I think that's an incredible moment to pause, reflect, and offer an opportunity to delight that client and say, "What do you think of this now? How has this changed for you?" Uh, and if you want to go on and capture that, then that's an opportunity to create another testimonial for yourself, assuming that the client is comfortable with sharing those things. Vicky, you have your hand up.
Yeah, a couple of things you said reminded me of something that happened yesterday with my physical therapist.
Please.
And the more that I get into coaching, the more you start applying it to all parts of your life. We all know that. But you know, I know I'm going there. He's going to ask me, "So was this week better? Do you feel better? You know, on the bike, off the bike? You know, I mean, all these things." And I'm like, "Yeah, not that I can tell." He said, "Okay, well, a month ago, did you?" And like, yeah. So he's just really good at doing finding the spot to make it feel like, "Yep, I am improving," and showing me that I'm improving. So helping clients find that, yeah, is just a really valuable tool. I learned a lot from my physical therapist.
That is awesome. Yeah. Kudos to your therapist and for you for picking up on that coaching point as well. In terms of appropriate comparison, we're often told comparison is the thief of joy, but when
Yes.
applied appropriately, especially when it's introspective, comparison can be super useful. So being able to look at those two distinct time points for yourself, yesterday versus a month before, it's like maybe over the last 3 or 4 days it hasn't been great, but zoom out a little bit more and it's like, oh, now I see that stark difference. Well done to both of you. Cool. Anyone else have anything to share on the concept of uh, delighting your clients or how you have been on the receiving end as a client yourself?
I'd like to share, I work with healthcare providers, and I recently found these little gifts because healthcare providers take that oath of do no harm, first do no harm. But it's
Mhm.
like mugs and shirts and that kind of thing. And then on the front it says, do no harm. And then on the back it says, but take no shit. And it's like, because you work with healthcare professionals that often like boundaries and things like that and overgiving. And I thought it was a really cool. I haven't done it yet, but this is something I discovered in case anyone else works with that group of people. Could be a fun gift.
That is fantastic. Sarah, do you have any like professional attachment or personal attachment to that field? Is that something that you've worked in before, or what is your relationship with with those professionals?
Yeah, I'm a chiropractor as well.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit of a risky swing there, giving a gift where it's like a little bit, I mean, not vulgar by my standards, but someone somewhere may be clutching their pearls. But I think the important thing there is that it's like you have a strong personal, like interpersonal, professional relationship with them. You know the culture, so you can take a little bit more of that liberty there. And then it shows in the personalization of that gift as well. You're able to take the kid gloves off with them because you can speak on that same level as them. So that's awesome. Let us know how it's well received. And yeah, I mean, I think typically in a lot of those healthcare settings, typical uh, attempt at surprise and delight looks like donuts or some other fast food or pizza. And of all the, like, especially like the nurses and doctors that I've worked with, there's like, if someone else brings in more sugared something or more pizza, I'm gonna explode. Uh, so I'm sure they'll be appreciative of something that is outside the realm of that. Although, a cookie or a donut might also go a long way. So you can try both and tell us which one they appreciate more. Cool. I'm just taking a look in the chat box here. Uh, and Sarfaraz, I'm apologize if I'm not saying your name correctly. Feel free to unmute and correct me. If you are able to unmute and read your question, that'd be fantastic. But if not, I will read your question to the group.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of, can you hear me?
Yeah, question for you first. Did I pronounce your name anywhere
Yeah,
near
great.
correctly?
So I'm in, yes, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm in the process of creating a 12-week program, which is based around stress resiliency for professionals with chronic getting is have like a group setting, and how to take my training, which is based on individual clients, getting to know them really well, and going through a client-led process to actually where I'm feeling as if creating the group modules and the action tasks is more of a coach-led process. So that's a bit of my struggle. I posted a couple of questions in the Facebook group as well, but I'm still struggling with that mindset. Let's call it that way, or what approach to take over here.
Interesting. Okay. So just like paraphrasing from what you said there, as well as the comment that you sent my way,
And
the challenge
also,
currently
sorry,
is
so because doing stress resiliency will involve some elements of movement and sleep for sure, and nutrition. So there's quite a few things. And if I was to work one-on-one with the client, there would be assessments, there would be a lot of feedback, and based on that, we would be trying to figure out what the next course of action is. Whereas here is where they have to go through a set process, and I'm just not clear how it works.
Gotcha. Okay. Would you be able to say, like, to reiterate your ask again in a slightly different way?
So my challenge here is to see how I can have the group program with fixed modules still be a client-led process, because there are limitations there to make it completely client-led.
Gotcha. Okay.
For example, assessing data and based on that, going with an action plan based on what the client is bringing up, getting really curious about the client, and then to make an evidence-based practice out of that. That's the way even my life coaching sort of is similar to that. It's very individualized, and we keep, and habit building, right? It's what's working, what's not. Whereas in a 12-week program with modules, it's like, okay, I am leading that. This is the way the client has to sort of follow the lessons and learn the tasks at hand. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So coaches there, in case you weren't, in case it was a little bit choppy audio wise on your end, hopefully you can hear me okay. Please let me know if my audio is not great. But essentially, the issue that our coach is running into here is that they are coming from a space where they've done very highly individualized client-led coaching in a primarily one-on-one setting. And now this new iteration is a 12-week program with a set curriculum. And the gap that we're experiencing here is, how do I make this also a client-led experience? I have some experience here to share from our PN 12-month program that we would also like to say is a client-led experience, but I'm curious to know here, are there coaches who offer both one-on-one and a group model, and how do you kind of reconcile and keep both of those as client-led, but with clear differentiation? Ah, there she is. So Sarfaraz, I'm not sure if you can see in the chat box there, but Coach Kate has hit the nail on the head there. Oh, and I think we may get a follow-up explanation here. One second. Oh, there you are. Welcome, Coach Kate. Looks like you got some follow-up for us.
Hey, yeah, I mean, I said that in the chat. It's not client-led. It's client-centered. It's coach-led. You're the one leading. You're the one leading the way. You're the one who knows, right? Like from your experience, from your reps, from what the clients are bringing to you, what that kind of pathway looks like. So there is still, I think, space for us to take the feedback into account. So like as Jeremy can probably share, like in PN coaching program, it's a 12 months program, it's a set curriculum. At the same time, if there's a particular week when we're getting specific theme of feedback coming up, like maybe a lot of people are struggling with a particular issue, we might address that issue in maybe office hours or in a team email. Jared, what about you? What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this, like when I hear the term client-led, from a one-on-one perspective, it's very much show up, tell me what's going on, then we'll put the pieces together collectively, and ideally you craft the next action steps. And you can also guide kind of like where our conversations go from session to session based on what the client's life is, their experience is, and what they're sharing with you. Whereas in a group setting, you have to let go of the idea of client-led and potentially also make your actions wide enough that basically anyone who fits our criteria can sit down and implement their actions in alignment with what we're working on. So if week one is all about sleep and sleep hygiene, it's like we're probably not going to be having a lot of conversations about the deep squat and how that's valuable for hip health. Like that may be on the top of mind for one of your clients, but that's not going to be the area of discussion for this week. It's not going to be the area of support to any large degree. So still client-centered. Clients are still bringing themselves forward, centering their own experience in this conversation, but we're looking at a very specific element of their experience right now. And I really like that differentiation between client-led and client-centered. A group coach and a one-on-one coach can both provide programs that are very much client-centered, but a one-on-one coach versus a group coaching experience, one of those will be client-led. The other one will very much be coach-led. Sarfaraz, does that give you any feedback, anything to think over there? Oh, maybe we lost them. But hopefully that got through before they had to leave. Or maybe they'll watch the replay. But yeah, Kate, I agree strongly in terms of what you shared in the chat box as well, with the tension maybe that our coach was experiencing here is trying to deliver that one-on-one experience in something that is not a format that caters to the same elements as one-on-one. Was there something else that you wanted to add there, Kate?
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking of like what checklist do we have in our head in terms of what we want to deliver in a group? Because I think some of the things that I've heard, like how do we make it evidence-based? Well, evidence-based is based on evidence. I don't actually need to survey every single client to know where evidence is pointing us, right? Like, so for example, if I am coaching a group of perimenopausal, menopausal women, and I'm building a curriculum to that population, if I'm building an evidence-based curriculum, as hopefully I am and I should, I can be pretty certain that I will include importance of higher protein intake and importance of resistance training and strength training. That will be an evidence-based approach to that population. All the evidence is pointing to that, right? Like, so we can be evidence-based without necessarily like having that one-on-one assessment, reassessment. And if we're aiming to provide this, like, so I guess what I was trying to say, I don't think it's realistic for us to take that deep dive into each person that one-on-one coaching would allow us, where it's like, okay, here we are. Okay, Sarah, let's start with you. Where are you at with your goals? Let's reassess. Like, we don't have the space for that in group coaching. However, we might have the space to do like what we call hot seat coaching, where maybe one person out of 10, out of 20, out of 50 brings a scenario and they can be coached on that issue right there on the spot. So you notice in that moment, that is actually one-on-one coaching, but in a group setting. And the idea that we're providing that one-on-one coaching so everyone in the group can benefit.
Right. Sarfaraz, I see that you were able to pop back on. Hopefully you caught a good deal of the discussion there. But of course, feel free to watch the replay later in the week.
Yeah, thanks. I think what's coming up for me is, I mean, I understand the difference and it's clarified a few things. I think the key is here that one needs to be very clear about their niche and really narrow down so you understand the problem that you're solving for your ideal client in that respect, and to create a program based on that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have the program, or at least the format of it, structured to some degree. Is it all ready to go? Are you just waiting for clients? Or is there still some time for you to make edits and change things?
No, I'm still in the sort of early stages of creating the program. So
okay,
that's
gotcha.
where I thought. Yes.
Cool. Then hopefully that feedback gives you some ideas on how to format to create your ideal program.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Cool. Any additional questions for folks pop up for today? What do you got, Sital?
I was wondering how we talk about injuries with clients. Like, I'm slowly moving from health coaching to fitness coaching. I'm trying to come up with like a combined, I want to improve like create a combined skill set. So I want to understand how fitness coaches talk about injuries to clients. Like, do they kind of give them a pep talk that, you know, if you have been sitting for a long time and if you start too fast at a short period of time, you might injure yourself? And has clients ever faced injury because of the fitness program that you created? And do they blame you for it, or do they understand that this is a, you know, a normal process? Considering the fact that the coach has done everything in their power to make the client understand, how do we talk about injuries to a client, or do we not talk about it?
That is an interesting question. And I mean, as someone who has like more than a decade in personal training and program design for clients, like have definitely had clients who have dealt with injuries. Will I on record say that I caused those injuries? I'm not going to say that, lest a jury find this audio. Let's take a look into the chat box, see what we got.
Yeah. So not pre-existing injury, like, you know, even with my own fitness journey, I have experienced that if I do certain exercises, more number of reps, I start, you know, getting a sprain on my shoulder or something on my knee, and it's just part of the process, right? And then we learn that, okay, we need to correct our posture and we need to, so it's like an entire process, not a pre-existing injury. but more due to a sedentary lifestyle, which leads to a weakness of bones and muscles. Yeah.
Gotcha. So there's two things that come up for me in terms of conversations that you would want to be quite skilled at navigating as a coach. So one of them is the idea of pain and how does pain relate to tissue damage. So a professional you can look into there is Dr. Lorimer Moseley, probably one of the best known figures within the academic research, and also translates it really well from kind of like technical jargon to what does this mean for the person who is experiencing pain, and then how does the clinician or coach explain that sensation to a client in a way that doesn't promote fragility and lets them know that, hey, like sometimes pain is a normal part of the human experience, and trying to eliminate it all the time always is not useful or productive. So looking more into that conversation has been really, really useful, especially for clients who have what I would describe as like a hypersensitivity to pain and movement. So it's like their relation is every time I do X thing, I always get hurt. So being able to navigate that conversation, how do we help them to appropriately dose, volume, and intensity? And that kind of relates to the next thing that I would say is quite useful here. So the term here would be, big fancy term is auto-regulation. What it really means is knowing when to do more or less stuff. So auto-regulation for someone who is in the gym is understanding that I had a crappy sleep last night, I didn't eat a lot, my workout says I'm doing 10 by 10 back squats at 79%. That's maybe not a recipe for me to do that today. Instead, what I'm going to do is back it down to 70% and cut some of the volume. That is me auto-regulating. As a coach, one of the things we want to be able to do is get our clients to that point where they're not beholden to a specific program or plan. It's like, I don't have to do what it says on the paper every day. If my intuition is telling me that my body is not physically ready or my mind is not physically ready for this challenge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I also really like what Kate wrote. Is injuries happen sometimes and it doesn't necessarily mean you have done something wrong. And that's something which I had to recognize for myself as well. Because a lot of times I would go to the gym and then come back and, oh, this hurts and that hurts. And pain does not necessarily mean stop moving. And that's also something I learned. Like what I do try to teach my clients is that if you have like a shoulder injury, you still can do core exercises and you can still do lower body exercises. If you have knee injury, you can still do upper body exercises, and giving them that flexibility that, you know, nothing is stopping you from totally moving your body. That does provide some amount of relief. Yeah, it is a little bit scary.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of where that fear develops is folks who have had a history of speaking with a professional who has not given them appropriate context of what this pain means and how it influences me and my decision making short term and my outlooks long term. Or they've read something somewhere or a friend told them something and they've kind of just internalized that and it's become a very strong correlation that this activity or this sensation means that bad things are happening all the time, always. And helping people to move past that is an incredibly valuable gift that a coach can give to their client. And the way that we often do that is, like, what is the safest avenue that we can insert or to start to challenge that belief? So someone who's like, yeah, every time I back squat, I blow out my back. It's like, cool, okay. Let's just use the pattern and we'll use a box squat variation and then you'll continue as long as you feel safe. And we'll use a really conservative approach. And then over time, exposing them to greater demand within their current capacity without experiencing pain tends to start to rewrite those narratives. But you can start at a ridiculously simple point especially if that person is like very ingrained and entrenched in the belief that they currently have. Kate, you have your hand up?
I mean, the person who's always in pain when they're doing squats, 9 times out of 10, I think you'll agree, this person is doing squats in the same way. They're showing up to the gym, they're getting on the bar, they're loading the bar, they're doing squats, it hurts. They stop doing squats for a month. Then they come back and they repeat the same goddamn thing. So very, very typically, there hasn't been a pattern of like progressive overload where it's like, that's lovely, you want to squat. Let's start with body weight squats, box squats, goblet squats, and actually work your way up to a barbell squat. And then lo and behold, you're not in pain. Magical, right? So there is kind of the piece of the patience that is sometimes involved in the pain, right? Like where we're just not rehabbing something, we're not giving something enough time, we're not training it throughout the time. And you said the word resilience there. I think that's a really big one, because it's really finding ways, as Cecil was saying, like, how do we continue to train? Like, how do you continue to train regardless of what the injury is? Like, if the shoulder hurts, we can do pulling exercises, as very often they don't hurt the same way that overhead might. So those assumptions that I kind of popped in is that, well, injuries happen sometimes, doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong, right? Because we can get injured because we're doing something with wrong form too much too soon. We also can get injured because we went out for a jog and we tripped and we fell and we twisted our ankle. That doesn't mean we've done something wrong. It also doesn't mean that jogging is bad for us. It just means that sometimes accidents happen and we could have just easily have slipped on a banana peel and twisted our ankle, or just kind of like stepped off a corner wrong, or twisted it back awkwardly getting out of bed, as some people do as well. And also, like, kind of my point with pain not necessarily means stop moving. For some people, pain-free is not a realistic goal, right? Like, I've been talking to Will. I brought him on here a couple of weeks ago, and like he kind of says, would you rather be in pain and weak, or would you rather be in pain and strong? And I say, I don't want to be in pain at all, right? But sometimes that might not be on the table for folks who have a chronic injury, a chronic condition, who are all out of cartilage in their knees, right? Like, so there just might be things there, like how do we moderate pain in a way that is tolerable and it still allows us to get stronger overall, still allows us to continue moving and training and keeping the entire machine like well functioning as it can.
So actually, this was a conversation that I wanted to bring up, then I forgot that I was going to bring it up, and now I'll bring it up the next time I host this call. But this term kind of goes under this umbrella. I'm curious to know, the overall conversation is, what are some of the themes or trends that you're noticing for 2024? This is one of those topics that falls under that umbrella, and the term is movement optimist, which is something that I greatly appreciate. It's a term that I first saw coined by Dr. Greg Lehman, who is both a physio and a chiro. He was someone who was started as one of those professionals and then became so disenchanted that he said, I'm going to go back to school and do the other thing, and then realized, they're both kind of the same thing. And really what I need to do is help people to move with more confidence and ease and try new things and load appropriately. And then everything else is kind of secondary there. So both the conversation regarding pain, what is its utility in our training, what does it tell us, what can we learn from it, and how do we adapt from breaking out of kind of that pain cycle, as well as just understanding how to regulate better. They're really two sides of the same coin, or two sides of kind of a similar spectrum. But that is a conversation that I think we can unearth a little bit more for another day. But if you want to check out his work, he has some really great stuff on Instagram as well. Yeah, actually, my evolution as a coach, like I was very much hardcore movement purist. There is a right way to move and a wrong way to move, very similar to how someone might label good foods and bad foods. And now I'm very much in a space where it's like, let's just move and have you move regularly with minimal discomfort. And as long as we're doing that regularly, probably some good things are going to happen. And then we can embrace more challenges and as they come down the pathway. Yeah, you often find us in a huddled in a tight circle, and everyone is standing like this with a ramrod posture. But thank you for bringing that conversation up, Cecil.
Yeah, no problem. What I feel is, and I don't know if others notice this, is that we don't talk about injuries or pain too much. Like, at least when I go through Instagram and I see these fitness coaches and fitness people, they are not talking about injuries too much, that even they, as fitness coaches, go through, shoulder dislocations or knee dislocations. And, I feel like that conversation needs to be more normalized, that those things are part of, life and part of process. I don't know. That's how I see it.
I would say that is a great perspective to have, and maybe you as a coach can integrate that uh, more into your messaging. I particularly love showing how bad I am at all the things that I love and hold most dear. That's part of my message as well. It's like you don't really have to be good at any of these hobbies to claim them as part of your identity and to incorporate them into your life. Likewise, you might be someone who really loves being in the gym and you've learned a great deal of how to manage pain as opposed to completely obliterate it. And I do think you're correct in that there is an underlying narrative in our industry that I can recover my way out of. I can massage therapy, I can Theragun, I can stretch, I can do yoga, I can do all these modalities to the point where it's like I never experience pain or discomfort. And I don't know if we're doing people a service with that. It's like I can supplement my way out of it. I can eat enough high protein. It's like, no, sometimes you're just going to be hurt, and that's okay.
I mean, one thing I will say, Cecil, and this is kind of for everyone, right? So on one hand, yes, we don't talk as much about injuries, perhaps as we should, mostly because humans are biased towards not talking about negative things. I think that's understandable, right? Like that's not super fun. I take pictures of my kids when they're cute and I put that on Instagram. I don't take pictures of them when they're screaming their head off, right? And putting that on Instagram because it's not enjoyable. So kind of the same thing with injuries. I think talking about a negative experience, especially as that experience is happening, takes a very particular type of resilience and a very particular type of openness. So on the internet, what is very common is, I used to have this problem and now I don't, and here's how I solved it, right? It is much more rare to see, I'm experiencing this struggle right now. In this very moment, I'm experiencing this struggle. Now, if you're finding yourself to be the kind of person who is able, like ready, able, and willing to do that, I think that will be incredible because a lot of people will find that very like transparent and relatable, right? Like it's like, hey, like look at my coach who is currently struggling with a hamstring injury or with a shoulder injury, and she's talking about it openly, right? She's talking about how she's adjusting her training. She's talking about what a toll that's taking on her mindset. Like that is super cool. But again, like it's hard. It's hard to do that. The second piece, if you're finding like no one's talking about it, people are talking about it, and if no one in your kind of surroundings are talking about it, I suggest reevaluating your internet silo because we are all in bubbles, right? And our bubbles, they kind of inform our reality, right? Like, so like when I talk to clients and they're like, everything is weight loss all day, every day, I'm being bombarded by messages of weight loss. My father is not, even though he's also on the internet, because he's in a different internet silo. So he's being bombarded by other things. He's being bombarded by tech news and, Russian politics probably, and whatever else that I would be scared to consider what he's being bombarded with. But, when we're seeing the same message again and again, and we're not seeing particular narratives, this is maybe our signal to go and seek that out. So I know when I work with women, one of the questions I often ask, Who do you follow? Like, which women do you follow online who are 10 years older than you or more? Many don't, right? But kind of like finding role models that are more experienced, but also older, who are struggling with different things, that are different than us, that are talking about different things. Like, that's really where we can kind of adjust the streams of information that are coming at us.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, that's something I'll look into.
Vicky, you had your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, and it was sort of before Kate started talking, but I was just going to reiterate that too, that like as coaches, when we go through injuries ourselves, right, like our thought process and our recovery and how to find movement around those injuries gives us the perfect opportunity to empathize with our clients, and I've found that super valuable lately.
Yep, a great point to bring up. Speaking of which, yeah, Kate mentioned that maybe you're not looking in the right spaces, or they're not finding you for some reason. I remember Dr. Adam Meekins, physiotherapist out of Australia, posted like a 40-part series on Instagram after tweaking his back deadlifting. So basically, from the day of I tweaked my back in the gym yesterday to every day until he felt like it was appropriate to start deadlifting in a significant weight again, which was something like 40 something days. Uh, every day was an update. Many of them were like, yeah, kind of feels about the same as yesterday. But I think being able to the like TLDR version of that, if you don't want to watch 40 Instagram videos, was uh, looking for small improvements in trying to find movement pathways that allowed him to get approximately close to thing with keeping current discomfort in mind. So it may not look like a 300-pound deadlift on day number 2, but it will probably look like some form of hinging in a safe pattern, something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of those conversations happening. But again, they are not as eyeball attracting as someone squatting 1,000 pounds or fitting into a pair of jeans that they haven't fit into in 20 years. We are almost up on time. Any final questions or comments for today before we sign off? Cool. And this feels like a good place to end for today. Thank you, folks, for bringing your questions and for sharing your responses as well. And then, Kate, when are we back next?
I think we have a coaching call February 5th. Let me just double check. Yeah, we actually have a coaching call on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I'm bringing on a co-host who is a sleep and recovery coach. So if you're thinking, loving, wondering all things sleep and recovery, join us.
Cool. Sounds like it'll be a good time. All right, folks, we will see you on Monday. Take care.